I feel like we maybe talked about this already as one of our business ventures, but we should really consider a subscription service for a bag of dicks. Because some people need to have it, on a monthly basis.
Hold on, but who's paying? Big question.
Yeah, it's complicated. I guess our Patreon money would go towards it. Because it would mean we'd have to have more bags of dicks. We couldn't use the same one with multiple people.
Right, it's not like a sticker. You can help support us in funding sending giant bags of dicks to our enemies.
Yeah. And the reason I was thinking about it is because I was reading something and Rachel Maddow was quoted in it. And I was like, yeah, she has not received a bag of dicks in a while. And that's probably why she sucks so much.
Because she doesn't have anything to suck.
Yeah.
Honestly, it doesn't even have to be a big bag. I'm thinking like a grocery
we could have different
bag.
Sizes. Well, yeah.
Not like a Santa sack.
No. Ew.
Like a paper
sack.
A
grocery bag. Mm-hmm. Yep.
But a full one or a sandwich sack?
You could have different subscription services, and the people that request, like, we could send our own bag of dicks, but then other people could say like, oh, I want to get a subscription for this person, and they could choose like small, medium, or large, and then we would just like liaise that process.
The whole dick issue is also part of it.
Like, where are you gonna get the dicks?
Yeah.
We're gonna harvest them.
We just gotta make them in a lab.
Yeah. Oh my god, I just thought of where we could get them from.
Oh my god, what are you gonna say? It's gonna be horrible.
Yeah. This shit feel like I won't ever make it home. Traffic's backed up, I got to get off of this road.
Are you gonna tell me first?
Yeah, I guess I could tell you first.
All right, talk to me.
But we need to introduce the goddamn show.
Oh, I like to introduce it late.
Okay, go ahead. From
St. Petersburg
and Brooklyn.
This is She's in Russia. I'm Lily.
And I'm Lily too. Her both name's Lily.
No, you're not.
But okay, yeah. And today we're doing a current events episode because everybody
don't
loves
call it that. Then
Sorry.
everyone's going to stop listening immediately. You don't need to say what it is.
Today we're doing one in which we talk
about. It's like,
we're talking about two different things. I'm going to talk about stuff on the American side because I live in America. And I'm going to focus, predominantly on like Russiagate bullshit and then like a few other articles that have been written recently in the past couple of days.
And
Lily, what are you going to focus on?
I am just going to like share a random piece of news.
Okay.
From Russia.
But fun for the whole family.
I mean, it's not random. It's just like, I'm not going to... I guess I'm coming from the Russian side. It's a piece of news that like Americans don't know or care about probably, unless you read this like
We're gonna make
one Bloomberg article. Okay.
Oh, also, side note, NBC recently did like a little 6-minute video segment about Yandex. Isn't that funny? And they were like, Google is the master of everybody across the world, but not in Russia. Why is that? It's this thing called Yandex.
Oh my god, just like what it is? I thought they did something on like the scandal. The like Google Docs thing. Oh my god, that's hilarious.
No. It was literally just
like an ad.
With Yandex, yeah, it was. It's like with Yandex, you can email, you can listen to music. Also, I didn't know this, but Yandex Taxi merged with Uber.
Yeah, they bought Uber.
Well, they didn't buy Uber.
Well, they like acquired the Russian whatever. And
I see.
Like it's like Uber is
Uber
under Yandex, I think, in that. Or maybe it's more of a merger, I don't know, but that's what people say.
And wait, can you use Uber?
Yeah, you can use Uber.
You can only use Yandex.
But it's like the general perception is that Uber has gotten shittier since being acquired. And I was always using Yandex because Yandex, in my experience, was like cheaper usually. There's also Get. Those are the three main competitors.
Get, yeah, I think Get is like Israeli or something. But it was also funny because they were like, the end summary was like, well, they're also less likely to trust Google because it's a foreign company versus using their local business. I was like, Yandex is not a local business.
My God. I mean, it is, but it's like
Google, your local neighborhood
it's
business.
like saying Google's a local business, sort of. I mean, it's like, yeah.
It is.
Why are people so bad at talking about foreign people? It's crazy.
I know.
It's crazy.
Really
it's like,
bad. It's bad.
Did you never travel? I don't even know. Okay, sorry.
Well, because they don't think foreign people are people.
Yeah, well, but that's fucked up.
Well, obviously.
They like to have their local foods and their local
their
search engines,
their culture,
folk song. It's especially bad.
company,
It's really bad in America. It's really bad because it's just for all the reasons that we know. But it's like that, like immediate belittling of something foreign because they have like a history that they're connected with. And then like like white Americans are just like, how cute. It's like so quaint.
Adorable. I know it's weird because it's like we're simultaneously definitely like the most nationally and ethnically diverse country, but we're also like one of the more isolated countries from other nationalities.
Yeah.
And so we have this like weird confusing. We like only understand ethnicities or nationalities as far as they interact,
and even
with
that
us
is like
within America.
Even that, I'm sure there is quite a lot of
it's like you only understand another culture if there's like a blank town in your city. Well, if there's not a Koreatown, then I just don't know how I could possibly understand them as a people. The update on Russiagate and BuzzFeed News. Did you hear at all about this?
I don't. Did you give me any trigger to know? BuzzFeed News?
No. BuzzFeed News, yeah.
No.
Okay. It really doesn't matter. Basically, BuzzFeed News, like a couple of days ago, published this article that apparently had been months in the works, in which they claimed that they had insight from two like federal law enforcement officials who are like working close with the Mueller team or whatever. And they stated that Trump had explicitly told his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, to lie to Congress and say that this Trump Tower that he had plans to build in Moscow, say that like the discussion around it had stopped before his presidential bid began. It turns out, one, it's not true that they stopped. Like apparently there was discussions and like plans to build this tower all the way through the election, which is a true fact. But this thing that BuzzFeed published, which was the quote unquote bombshell that like he had told Michael Cohen to lie, like immediately after the Mueller team came out and was like, we don't have any evidence that that's the case. So we're like rebutting it. Do you understand?
No, I'm confused.
BuzzFeed
Who
was
are
like,
the two people?
okay.
Who are the sources?
Okay. They didn't say. It's anonymous. But BuzzFeed said, like, essentially, we have information from Mueller's team that states that Trump told Cohen to lie about the schedule of this tower.
But Mueller's team had said that.
And then BuzzFeed
didn't.
publishes the article. And then Mueller's team is like, no, that's not true.
Well, that's not officially true. That's why the sources are anonymous.
Yeah, but, I mean...
That's how that works. They're not going to like be like, yeah, true.
Well, but they could say
could
say nothing. Also, they could say nothing.
They
like,
can refuse to comment.
Right, like the fact that they're like, no, that's not true.
So
that's
who
a
the
lie.
fuck? So that's like really bad for BuzzFeed.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, BuzzFeed sucks.
They were going to publish.
We know that. We know BuzzFeed sucks. I mean, remember they published the whole Steele dossier. Remember that? In its entirety.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Where they're just like, here it is, everybody, feast your eyes.
Yeah.
And then, BuzzFeed published this, and then, of course, like, everybody on TV, like, came all over themselves immediately and was like, oh my God, this is bad, 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 before Mueller was like, no. And then after Mueller...
But they were actually really happy
Yeah, of course. They were like,
They're
oh
like,
my
this is
God.
so bad.
Ugh.
It's so
Yeah, everybody, and they love to be like, this is like this is the next Watergate, how the president is like doing illegal things and we're going to get him impeached. You know, everybody like gets all razzed up. They're like, this is it, finally. Because they're like literally retarded and can't recognize a pattern.
Wait, what do you mean can't recognize a pattern?
This happens every time. Like some article comes out and everybody's like, yes, this is the one that gets him. This will mean he's going to get impeached for sure. And then
It's really
everybody
embarrassing.
either is like totally uninterested and doesn't care that he did that, or it's not true.
Yeah. It's going to be really hard to like Watergate.
Yeah.
Trump.
No, you can't Watergate him and like stop pretending that it's even that era. It's like a completely different thing. It's not going to work.
I'm going to wiretap him.
And then
That's what I'm going to do.
I've got a wiretap him. And then a bunch of other publications like wrote, basically no other like good publications were able to confirm anything that BuzzFeed said. And they were just like, if true, this means this. But they weren't like, this is true. And then,
Well, who the fuck publishes anonymous sources that they're not sure about? That's weird. It's one thing to cite BuzzFeed,
well,
but
and also they
fuck?
didn't reach out to Mueller's. So here, Jason Leopold, one of the article's co-writers, sent a heads-up email to Mr. Mueller's spokesman, Peter Carr, only several hours before publication. Okay? Weird. In the exchange, which was first reported by the Washington Post, Mr. Leopold said that he was planning to report quote, Michael Cohen was directed by President Trump himself to lie to Congress about his negotiations related to the Trump-Moscow project. Mm-hmm. The email did not mention that the article would also assert that Mr. Mueller had substantial evidence of the supposed presidential marching orders, i.e. telling Cohen to lie, a vital component that gave the story so much apparent heft.
Did Mueller even answer?
Yeah, so I don't know.
Dear sir, please go flush your head in the toilet.
I don't know what they responded in the email, but they responded like something very short, being like, no, this isn't true, basically. I can find a quote for it in a second. And then
who did they, the Mueller team, respond to? To like other reporters or to BuzzFeed? Like
I don't
reached
know.
Out finally.
I think I don't know who they like. They might have just put it out on their website. I don't know what their website is or where they put it out. Hold on.
No.
Let me just pull it up real quick. Yeah. So the BuzzFeed article now has a caveat that says, "Update: the Office of the Special Counsel Mueller. Jesus.
I don't know. We don't know.
I know we don't know. Is disputing BuzzFeed's news report. Okay. And then this is what this guy Carr said, who was the one that got the email from BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed's description of specific statements to the special counsel's office and characterization of documents and testimony obtained by this office regarding Michael Cohen's congressional testimony are not accurate. Basically, everybody's like, oh, it's not true. After everybody on TV was all excited, and then
they're like, can't you just pretend it's true, Mueller?
And then Ben Smith, who's the BuzzFeed news editor, and I also want to say he's the CEO of BuzzFeed, but maybe I'm mistaken, and also the one that decided to publish the dossier, was like, we are confident that our reporting will stand up. Even after the special counsel's statement on Friday night, Rachel Maddow of MSNBC speculated that it wasn't a true denial. During an interview with Mr. Smith, she asked, do you have any concern that this statement from the special counsel's office might be an effort to dissuade you and dissuade your reporters from pursuing this, even if it is accurate, either because it interferes with the special counsel's investigation in some way, or it is otherwise too uncomfortable for the Justice Department?
What the fuck is wrong with that person?
I don't know. She's a psycho.
First of all, they said the documents or like the things that were implied. What was the language? It was a little confusing, or inaccurate.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't like super clear. They were just like, no, this is wrong. It's inaccurate what you're saying.
But they said the sources, basically, right? Like the understanding of the documents.
Description
so it's
of specific statements and characterization of documents and testimony obtained by this office regarding Michael Cohen's are not accurate, yeah.
I mean, at this point, you have to imagine that BuzzFeed, obviously they don't want to look like idiots, but they did hopefully do some, work in confirming, verifying, like, why do they think these sources are trustworthy and what were they even, like, what are their sources? So it could just be like sort of, like a security issue where the characterization of the documents is inaccurate, but like because they haven't finished investigating or something, you know? They're like not sure.
Yeah, it's just like when BuzzFeed fucks up like this, it just seems, I don't know, like really obvious that they're BuzzFeed. They come from a company that is all about getting clicks. That's like literally bottom line what they care about. Like BuzzFeed, the main site is still utter trash. Like a couple of weeks ago, I was like, wait, is BuzzFeed like still just complete trash? And I went on there and it is. Like they don't write detailed articles at all. It's still all listicles and like collections of tweets, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah, they're definitely trying to like rebrand a little bit with BuzzFeed News, but yeah, you have to take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
And they did, I think the dossier thing kind of gave them this weird like, it gave them some social capital or something, some like legitimacy because they were like, let's just give the documents to the people, like what you're saying.
Yeah. Like they're WikiLeaks or something.
Yeah, it's like you're supposed to write about that, like not just like poop it out. I mean, yeah, exactly. Like WikiLeaks, you're not WikiLeaks, okay?
Yeah.
So,
and then the one other thing I read was the reason I went into Russiagate is because I was reading like an evaluation of what Trump's policy on Russia is, which is basically just like he's at odds with his administration. Like his administration is plodding along just as they always have under any president. For example, to quote our dear, dear friend Michael A. McFall, he said, "On balance, I actually support the Trump administration policy towards Russia mostly. That's the policy. The problem is I don't see any evidence that President Trump supports that policy. On the contrary, he seems to take the exact opposite view." Which, like, yeah, rhetorically, I guess he does, but he's also, like, he chose to give weapons to Ukraine, and he's pulling out of Syria.
What is the policy? It's like a whole set of policies.
Yeah, a whole set of policies, like what you do about
where to fight the
Putin
proxy
problem.
wars.
Yeah, which country it's going to be this year. Yeah, that's good. And then there was just one other quote from this article that it's not important, but it's just crazy to me that somebody who... Okay, so this guy is named Steven Sestanovich, and he was an ambassador to the former Soviet republics in the 1990s, and this is his contribution to this article. "The big problem with Trump's policy is that it doesn't add up. If you have a policy that doesn't add up, you won't win support for it. And if nobody supports it, how tough can it really be?"
So basically anyone can be a diplomat.
Yeah, no, I do feel like that sometimes.
He's like, listen, if a policy isn't a policy, then it's not a policy. And if it's not a policy, then it's not tough enough to be a policy.
Am I
and
right?
That's what I said. Am I right? And they're like, yes, sir. You're hired.
I know. It's also definitely like the sound of somebody who's been retired for like 15 years and hasn't read any new information since they retired.
Yeah, like tough. Like what does that mean? I guess in the case of the US and Russia, like tough policies are just like sanctioning a lot.
No, he didn't say tough. Oh, yeah, how tough can it really be? Yeah.
Like, what is that? Why is that the measure? Like, why is that the first metric? It's like,
toughness.
Do you mean, like, good?
Because he, like, was still, like, living in the Soviet Union. Like, the Soviet Republic was over, but he was...
You gotta hold Eastern Europe by the balls. you gotta grip them.
Twist a little bit.
Vice grip, and you gotta just tell those freedom-hating...
Yeah, especially with those
sheep.
Satellite states, because they just don't know what they're doing after the motherland is gone. They could go any which way. Communist,
but they smell freedom.
You got to show them democracy with your tough policy.
Keep them in the fold. It's like, speaking of that,
yeah. Oh, nice
speaking
little segue.
Of post-Soviet states is a good segue, yeah. Okay, so to transition, I was going to talk a little bit about a lovely relationship between Russia and a former Soviet state called Belarus, not called Belarusia. And basically, like, yeah, this whole dynamic of, like, which fold you're in, the fold of Russia or the fold of the West, is sort of, it's been playing out, at least in rumors and, like, political analysis or people pretending they're doing political analysis recently, the past month or so. The rumor that sparked up basically is Putin trying to enfold Belarus into the Russian Federation, or are they like, there are a couple of theories, like, or are they plotting together to sort of like form a, well, they actually currently, do you know the sort of like geopolitics of their situation? They're like union. Do you know about that?
No.
They're in a union.
Just the two of them?
Civil union. Yeah. It's been since, well, they signed it in 97, and then there's like a newer version from 99. And it's just basically like it's its own union or federation of the two states, the Russian Federation and Belarus. And they share a currency. They share some like symbolic stuff too, like flags and stuff, but they also have like their own.
They share a currency?
Yeah, like it's the Belarusian ruble, but it's like...
Is it?
And then the biggest thing is like these trade terms where there's basically open borders, and for forever, like Russia sells oil to Belarus with like duty free, without taxes.
Duty free. All right.
And also it's like the way that always like panned out in my experience was that friends of mine, like Nastya, goes there a lot, and you don't have to have a visa or anything. It's like, it's an open border also for travel. So that's the situation. But then recently, all these like rumors are flurrying and flying because for some reason, Putin and our man Lukashenko,
he's not our man, to clarify.
He's my man. Started like, for some reason, had a series of meetings. Just a lot of meetings in the past month. They had 3. This was kind of, I don't know if this was because of the meetings or during the meetings, but Putin changed the Russian government decided to change the oil trade terms.
Okay.
So now Belarus is set to like lose a lot of money because they're going to have to pay.
I see. Why did he do that? Do you know?
I think because Russia's like they're struggling a little bit, and they're like, we can't like give away stuff anymore. The things I was reading was saying that Belarus's economic situation is really bad, and they're in debt, and a lot of like, basically this will have a huge effect on their economy. It's hard for me to sort of understand like the cause and effect here. Like, there's the oil situation, what caused the rumor of like, maybe they're making some kind of, maybe Putin's making some kind of like aggressive deal on top of that. But like, there's nothing like aggressive in their relationship. Their diplomatic relationship has always been really like friendly.
I thought, doesn't
brotherly.
Russia do some sort of military exercise in Belarus?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they like do that stuff together. They like share symbols, and they're allies. I mean, it's an important political ally, and that's something that you'll hear from like detractors and non-detractors. Is basically just like, at this point, Belarus and like Lukashenko is one of the only leaders who's like stalwartly
pro-Putin
in that area of the world with Putin. So maybe the Middle East is like another place right now, but he needs that support. Duh.
Yeah, that's true. So wait, so what is the resolution of the?
Okay, so I don't know what the resolution is, but people are like, this is being reported on right now, and the one's extreme side is like what I read in a Bloomberg op-ed in English. Feel free to read it; it's not good. Which is like, who wrote it actually? Leonid Bershitsky. He writes like a stalwart anti-Putinist, which is just like, uses certain language like the dictator and like that stuff.
Yeah.
And so his theory, his opinion piece is about that regardless of the oil situation and all the meetings and stuff, like what's really going on is that Putin is attempting to position himself as like in that union of the two nations, like they can technically have a leader of that union, and it can be someone who's like, it could potentially be one of them, but not the president, so that when Putin retires, as in like when he has to not be president anymore, he could have a position of leadership. And it would be this like union president. And then there's like, the other thing is though, so the official line is that Lukashenko has like openly said, we're not like another Crimea, we're not going to be part of Russia, so this is sort of separate narrative, right? Not that of Putin being like the head of the two of them, but just the concept of Russia like engulfing. Mm-hmm. And he's like, no. And, like Lavrov is also like, that's stupid. Nobody wants to do that. And it would be like annoying and expensive.
Too much work.
And there is this sort of like idea of like taking on Belarus would be like Russia already is taking on Belarus because they're already giving them all these breaks and like supporting them and paying for things. And it's like this leftover kind of dependent relationship. At least that's how it's interpreted, I think, a lot. Mm. Yeah, so yeah, I feel like it was just like seeing headlines about the two of them a lot, I guess because they were meeting a lot, and then all these like rumors are flying, and everyone was like, no, we're not Crimea, whatever. And then a couple of things happened. This is not like causally related, but it's just a great tidbit, which is that I guess during their last meeting, it was near New Year's, and Lukashenko, can you guess what he gave Putin as a New Year's present?
Oh, wait, I think I saw this. Potatoes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But potatoes and like 4 giant bags of potatoes and salo, which is like that pork stuff. Yeah. Mm. And he gave him like the potatoes. It's like there's this video where he is describing.
Was that an egg?
I was also like, yeah, what's the deal here? But you might as well see the video because it's just like really unbelievable. Just watch it.
Жирное нельзя есть. Это вот для пюре и драники. Там все внутри упаковано, а это внешне свое. Спасибо.
Lukashenko is like describing that there are different types of potatoes. Oh. They're like, he's like, this one is for mashed potatoes. This one's for draniki, which are like those dumpling things, like pierogi.
Okay.
And he's like, and these are mine, like from my garden. What would you mean by negging?
Just like, what is, like, is he trying to disrespect him, or it's like a fun thing between them, or it's genuine?
Okay. Belarus is known, like, it's like making fun of yourself if it's making fun of anyone. Belarus is like, the first association with Belarus is potato. How would that be offensive to Putin? Like, you are like a peasant?
Well, it's just like, imagine if you went to visit a very famous person and you brought them a bag of potatoes.
Yeah, but they're both famous and they're like friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're from countries that like
are into potatoes.
One of which is known for potatoes.
Yeah, I guess like a governor from Idaho would definitely bring potatoes to somebody.
Yeah, it's like a down-homey gesture. It's like, imagine if whatever the stereotypical food is from a certain country. I mean, but did you see their like bear hug?
Yeah.
It's just like so funny and like brotherly. I don't
know.
But
Lukashenko really is like not a good person, right? Like dictator a little bit.
I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah, but like, is he worse than? I don't know how much like worse he is as a person than Putin.
Well, as like on an interpersonal basis, but yeah, I meant politically as a person.
That's definitely his because he's been in power for a really long time, and like that's
what happens.
The narrative about him.
Yeah, usual dictator shit.
I think like the closing or control of information outlets, and like being in power for a long time, controlling elections to a certain extent. Like these are, I guess like tactics of a dictator, but.
I mean, well, you don't have to be scared about calling him a dictator.
I'm not scared of calling him a dictator. I'm just saying, I'm not scared at all. What do you mean?
But you're being resistant to the idea that this person is a dictator, but he could just be a dictator.
No, I'm being resistant to the idea that like what you brought up, which is like, but isn't he like really bad? Like you're sort of thinking he's like worse than Putin. You think he's like committed crimes against humanity, and like it's possible that he is more just like restricting freedom but not committing crimes against humanity. I don't know.
Well, you have to do fucked up shit to restrict freedom though. Like arresting political prisoners is arresting like political adversaries is fucked up. Faking elections is fucked up. But yeah, you're right. It's not the same as having like roving bands of child soldiers and like genocide.
Or killing your people or
yeah.
other like brutal things that dictators do, like mass genocides and stuff.
Yeah.
So these are different things, but it's clear the
Dictator
the
light.
PR. What?
Dictator light.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't even know. I'm not trying to defend him because I just don't know like what he's actually done. But what I'm trying to say is like I think that because he has this bad reputation of having been in power for so long, of being like the last Soviet dictator or whatever, to be standing in Europe, it's clear that like PR image has worked really well, because even if you didn't know about him either, and that's just like what you assume, that he's worse than someone like Putin, who has also done all of those things, just to a different extent. Putin. There was one last part of this that like got a lot of, this is the last thing, it's not, we got really sidetracked by the potatoes, but that wasn't like, that was just funny. There was also this like thing, basically, in the dynamics between Belarus and Russia, which is that there was like an incident recently when someone who appeared to be a Russian man in the metro in Minsk in Belarus, wearing a traditional Cossack hat, and there's a person who is apparently a Belarusian guy filming the Russian guy and like yelling at him and being like anti-Russian. And the Russian guy's like maybe drunk or something, and he like kicks him. I mean, it's like not really clear what's going on to me, but it's clearly, the sentiment is clearly anti-Russian. The video gets like immediately picked up by Russian media, and they're like, look how the Russians are being persecuted, like similar narrative to Ukraine, which is like, look how the Russians are being persecuted in this place, like this is horrible. And Lukashenko, because of that incident, he like gave a statement. First of all, like the media picked up on that right away, and like they wanted a reason to get upset about something, but actually those were just two Belarusians. It's like, okay, he just decided that. And then he goes on to this like more sort of like philosophical level, and he gives this little speech about like people will try to make us be in conflict, like the people of Russia and the people of Belarus, like forces will try to make us hate each other, but like we'll never actually come into conflict with each other. And then he says this like phrase that ends up getting really quoted and like memed and stuff, which he's like we ourselves are Russian, and not only he's like, I'm not only talking about Russians in the ethnic sense, but like he uses the larger word, the word like Russian citizen.
Okay.
And he's like, we ourselves are Russians. But then when he says we ourselves are Russians, he goes back to like the word that means more the people.
Okay.
And he's like, we ourselves are Russians. Belarus is Russian with like mark of quality, or like a seal of quality. Do you know how to, wait, before you interpret that, I don't know how to, I think I'm translating it wrong, because it's like, he means like, not that they're better than Russian, but that they're like real, like they have the label.
Oh, like a seal of approval or something? Like
but it's quality.
Stamp of authentication, like a... Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Like what you would have on like a cheese that's like raw certified or something like that.
Yeah, or certified like maybe
Russian
wine.
Okay.
That's like from that like the particular whatever that label is. It's like Belarus is Russian with like a stamp of
authentication. Certificate of authentication. Yeah.
I don't want to say quality because that is the word, but then it sounds like they're saying just we're the better version.
Yeah.
But I wish it was that. But. And then he like gets sort of more into warning people and being like, it's very dangerous to try to like disrupt this, and like he's basically saying like what is happening in Ukraine would never happen to us, and like that's impossible, and also it's dangerous to even
talk about
to try to. He's like warning the people of the Russian media who picked up on that like one incident and got everyone riled up about it.
Staying in my lane, fast car, race car games, this car in my name, dropped off of the rain. Running all red lights, turning left, go right, I know bro, go right, I'm on go tonight. Go, go, go.
Done?
Go, go, go.
Yeah.
That is the episode. Thank you for listening. Follow us on Where, Lily?
Telegram and Twitter at She's in Russia.
And
Support us at patreon.com/She's in Russia. Contribute monthly to our
Bag of Dicks subscription service.
Yeah, and like all the other things we need to do.
Yeah. And sign up for our monthly image-based newsletter. Okay. And next week, we'll be back to talk to you about the Soviet cafeteria.
Oh, yeah. It's true. It's weird when we do it out of order.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Okay. Goodbye. Don't worry, everybody. I still got my tits.
Yeah, we both got our tits.
We both got our tits.
Tits out for Tuesday, which is today.